G'day, welcome to another Brainstream. Today, we're going to revive a project from a couple of years ago. Last week, I don't know, spur of the moment, I'm just like, let's just build this thing. What is it? Imagine if you could go to any store, if you are looking for kosher food, and you could whip out your phone or put in your augmented reality glasses, and every kosher item is just easily accessible. It's highlighted. There's multiple ways you can highlight it. You could do something like this, where any kosher item has a tick, or a picture of the texture in front of it. It should go over here. I've got a couple slides. Or it's highlighted, something like that. Or you could have like a Black Mirror type of thing where anything non-kosher kind of is frosted over and disappears. Anyways, that's the idea. Just make it as simple and easy as possible. Where did this come from, and why is this something that I even spent a little bit of time building? Growing up in Australia, we didn't have the luxury of being in the United States or Israel, where you could pretty much walk anywhere and find kosher food super easily, whether it's because everything is kosher or because most of the kosher food, we're talking about like 99% of it, has a kosher symbol on it. So you just pick it up, and if you know a few of the kosher symbols, you can look around and find out what it is. Yeah, there are some people that don't know all the kosher symbols, so might be looking at one and just not even realize it's kosher. That's one problem. There's also like picking it up, looking around, that is not so easy. But the point is that in those countries, it's relatively easy. Now, growing up in Australia, we would have a list. I think you had to print it out at a certain point. Then they started publishing a book. That would only come out once a year. And you can imagine that the updates would have been a nightmare because things are constantly being added, taken away. And then there's a bunch of like caveats of like, oh, if this was made before this date, or if this was imported from this country, it's kosher. And if it's not from there, and this batch is... So there's lots of different caveats. So as time went by and phones became ubiquitous, they built the biggest, I think, brand in Melbourne, built the Kosher Australia. They built their own app, which had the entire list. Now, it was a big leap forward. You didn't have to carry a paper around with you. It was also a bit more updated. You had a database, and you now had a search function, which was a lot easier than flipping through lists or finding categories, things like that. Problem is, you have to spell it out. You have to have the brand, if you have different flavors. It took you time, definitely better than the one you had before, but still a little bit of an issue. After I came up with this idea, I pitched it out to them. It actually came from a specific instance. I was at a store. Now, this wasn't in the main Jewish community, because in the main area, in the biggest store, in Coles, they actually have on the barcodes, kind of right, I don't know if I can properly point, but if you have like here, right here, this like little, where the price is. In those stores, because they had a massive Jewish clientele, they actually put the Kosher Australia logo on the shelf so you could easily see it. This also is something that they did with barcodes later on, but again, it just applies to those stores. So I had gone to a store outside and I was looking for, I think, chocolate that day. And I'm looking at an entire shelf of, I think like 20, 50 different chocolates. And yes, I had the app. Yes, I had signed up. Yes, I had data. But to be able to like search through every single one and type it in properly and everything just took forever. Going through each one, oh, it's not finding it. Maybe I didn't write it. Maybe I have to now write the brand name. Or maybe it's the flavoring, the one with the sprinkles is good, but it just took me forever. So I was like, imagine if I could just have augmented reality that would just highlight in whatever way every item that was kosher. So I could just look at a shelf and just like, out of 50 products, 13 of them are just very easily, and now I just worry about like price or which one I actually want. I can just pick it up, but I know it's kosher. I don't have to worry about digging in, looking at a list, checking, even picking up the item, flipping it over and hunt for a logo, which doesn't exist for like most products in Australia. Let's take away that little cursor. After that, actually, they did release barcodes, which it never worked for me in the past, but I did try it again recently, and it's actually not that bad. Definitely a big leap from texting. I'll give it that. But there's still problems. One by one, you have to pick up the item, search around for the barcode, make sure it's straight and all that, and scan it. Number two is you have to add all the barcodes into the database. Someone in the company has to do that. And outside of different countries, it doesn't scale because the barcode might work for this specific product that is, shipped by Vietnam or something, but like the one that comes from a different country has a different barcode, which could be great to differentiate them, but very, very, very time consuming. they try to do store barcodes because I was like, oh, you have to pick up the items. And they're like, oh no, in certain stores, we're trying to work on like getting pictures for all the barcodes on the store shelves, like we have over here. But again, that only works for the big chains that have those barcodes because they're different than the actual barcode that was on the actual product. So anyways, it took forever. Don't even mention going to another country that doesn't have that infrastructure. So at least in Australia, over the many years, it was big enough that they had the infrastructure to make their own app. And also they added in a barcode, which definitely is a improvement over the texting. And what you're left with is a scenario today where every country has their own app, if you're lucky. If something's big enough, they might have done, so the OU, I saw one in London, I saw, I think, one in Canada, and one in Australia. But each of those places have multiple authorities with their own databases, and if they're big enough and they have a bit of a budget and had time and effort, they have their own app. There's no universal easy app that you just go there, you know you're connected to everybody, and you can travel around the world. Now, that is going to be one of the big challenges, I understand, of this product, is going to be convincing the authorities to be able to actually share their data. I personally think that if you are in that game, if that's your business isn't in data, your business is in actually making relationships with these companies and certifying their products. Your data is just a status of what you're being able to do for those days. So I think you should share that and make it easily accessible for people around the world to make it more open to people so they can easier find your products. I don't think that that's a good idea of gatekeeping your data. I think it should be shared. Sadly, even if they do, I think the state of the world, the state of these companies are probably it's in a CSV or JSON or something if they're advanced. I doubt any of them have APIs that could easily connect to an app like this that would allow it to be updated. But imagine an app that does connect to all the big databases and showcase this, so you could go anywhere in the world and travel. There is, so I want to share two features that I think are very big. One is contributor mode. So I think that even these apps that have the database, and yes, we could talk about that the barcode on the apps that have been able to put barcodes, and I've seen a standalone barcode scanner app that I think probably try to connect to databases and probably got pretty far, but it's very time consuming, and I don't think that enough of these have actually tapped into the community. Crowdsourcing the information. And I think that's very big. So one thing I've done over here is that I've made sure that crowdsourcing is front and center, adding and editing or verifying. Let's go back into, okay, so here you see I have a product that's not in the database. So this is, let me just show you version 1. This is just showing you that it's recognized with computer vision. I hadn't had to do any barcode or thing. Once these items are in the database, it recognized, it pulled out the name, the product, and then over here you just see what's the certifying things, the certifying authorities. Later on, we're going to obviously improve that UI. As you can see in version 2, there is like a kind of a bug. The UI is a little bit not so easy, but as you can see, once we've added in, you can see the product. But what I want to highlight is this idea of like scanning the product. Now, I'm already using computer vision and OCR to extract that information, so why don't I do that to add it? If I can make it very simple for anyone in the community to add, that's a huge incentive to actually go ahead and do it. So imagine, like right over here, we have the ticks for kosher. Imagine any item in this list that, first of all, you can also toggle to see not kosher items, but do you want to see a bunch of X's? That's on you. But the items that aren't on the database that it can't find should have like a plus in front of it. And if you click plus, it has already seen that information, got a bit of information to know that it doesn't even have it. And it can start putting that inside of, it can add that itself. Over here, you can also take your own image to add information. So over here, you see it's extracted the brand name, the product name, and the categories. But as we go more, you can think of taking the logo, taking whether it's gluten-free, vegan, organic, things like that, kosher Pesach, OUD, OUP, all the different hechsherim, as many as you can, and putting that into the database. Now, if you have some sort of reviewing, so I have actually a hidden game inside of the app right now, which people can vote on different products. So it comes up, you might have 10 items, and it's very quick to just swipe yes or no. And it says, does this item look kosher to you? Or do you know that it's kosher or something? And you can go yes, no, yes, no. And as the community gives that information, this gets ranked, and maybe an email or the app itself, the kosher authority is able to say, you know what, that actually is in our database, or it's actually the same as another product, or what have you, anything like that, so they can go and certify. There's a lot of other features that we can do over here of an actual verification system. Think of like a Twitter verification, where like the halachic companies have their own little badge, and maybe like a time crunch that it has to be approved like once a year, and as it goes down, it starts breaking and it needs to be re-verified. And that might be just a database push. So an API that's constant will have it constantly refreshing. But if the crowd could say, oh, this is 25% of the crowd thinks that this is kosher, it's obviously not certified or approved, but it might be able to surface these items to a level where the local Chabad Shliach or the Hechsher company can go in and give their approval or their certification if it's on it. Great to see that the video is struggling a little bit. But anyways, we're going to try wrap it up because I'm trying to keep it to 10 minutes, but we're going to go to 50 minutes because it's that. So I think, and there's lots of more things. There's, does this item look like another item? So maybe as you press plus, maybe before that process, it might give you a little game of saying, oh, we found another item that we think is similar. Is it the same item? And then you might have a choice to say yes or no very quickly. If you say yes, then it maybe just says, oh, we've actually extracted more information that the other item didn't have, which is why we were confused, and we're putting that into that item. And imagine you're getting points inside of this. Maybe you even get streaks. So we can gamify and also help the motivation for the user. Now also think of it, if we tackle the travelers, because that's another point, that maybe we might start on travelers first, then they're motivated to say, hey, I'm actually going to spend a little bit more time, maybe even just taking pictures of images, and I'm just going front and back, and this goes in, but it doesn't go to a queue and it waits for like months before a rabbi can get to it. It actually goes into the crowd, and everybody else can go, oh yeah, I've been there, I've seen that product at the Chabad house kitchen, so I know that, you know, I'm going to give it a vote. And if we just make it very, very simple and we have this pay it forward, then the motivation of a traveler is to come and say, hey, this really helped me out because when I traveled 2 years ago, like I had to call the rabbi for every single thing and like bother him and waste his time. And now I have an app that I just scan with my phone, and I have a massive database that's constantly being updated. Now, also, if you have a crowdsourced update that's being updated, we can also feed that back to the halachic authorities and say, hey, this is the extra information that the crowd has shown, or pieces you've missed, or data that is out of date. Here's some extra information to keep your product in date. So again, we can give as well as take with this database. But if we build this up and have a community involved, where they want to give that little time and like swipe and say, yeah, this product, oh, I've gotten it, or take pictures to add it. I think that can make what is a very complex and massive database into something that's a lot more update and upkept. So I think bringing in crowdsourcing, bringing in game theory, gamifying the experience and making an actual pleasure, not only to find kosher products, because you're not spending time of typing or having a hard UX that the app looks like it was developed 20 years ago, but it's a light, taking away as many road barriers would be very interesting. Like think of this flow, like because I had a few different ideas, and I'm going to finish off with this, but there's lots more kind of concepts behind this. But I think that with these fundamentals, I think we can really get it to a point where we can make it just a breeze to find kosher products around the world, and even when there's, especially actually where there's no infrastructure for any kind of database, and the best they have is like a handwritten list or calling up and bothering the rabbi. But think of this flow. You have auto scan, which is what we're going to get to soon. We've got a version that has auto scan. So you go to a shelf, right? You've got 20 items in front of you. It ticks the items that need to be ticked. The items that have need to be added have like pluses in front of them, so you can go in plus. But the items that have exclamation, you actually bring your phone closer. So instead of like tapping and everything, because I was like, that was the original, but that's annoying. As I come closer, now I have more information. Now I have more real estate to show you. I actually show you now the name of the product, maybe if it's parav, milchig, fleischig, things like that, and the different logos. And also if it's part of the ones that like, oh, I need to know if it's made in Vietnam or made on a the code, there needs to be a Y in front of the use by date or best before date. As you come in, it says, oh, just show me the use by date or show me the code. And as you pan your phone, this is in one fluid thing. You haven't touched a single button, it checks it and goes, oh yeah, okay, I'm verifying that's kosher. Anyways, that's my time. I'll see you guys in the future. Hope you enjoyed it. See ya.